There is a form of power that announces itself with noise. Raised voices, quick reactions, constant explanations. Most people trust this kind of power because it is visible, but the ancient warriors of Japan feared something else entirely. They feared the opponent who spoke little, revealed nothing, and seemed untouched by provocation. For in silence, intention cannot be read, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. In Zen teachings, this quiet force is known as seijaku, a deep, imperturbable stillness that exists even in the center of chaos. It is not mere absence of sound. It is the disciplined refusal to waste energy on what does not matter. The samurai trained relentlessly to cultivate this state, understanding that the loud mind is a vulnerable mind. Only the silent one can perceive clearly enough to act without hesitation. Chapter 1. The Noise We Live. Inside, Kenji Tanaka did not consider himself weak. He was confident, respected at his firm, and known for his reliability. Yet each day felt like a battle he was quietly losing. His phone dictated his attention, conversations lingered in his head long after they ended, and the opinions of others shaped decisions he told himself were his own. Even in solitude, his thoughts argued, rehearsed, defended. One evening, after a minor disagreement with a colleague, Kenji replayed the conversation for hours. He imagined sharper replies, stronger postures, different outcomes. By midnight, nothing had changed, except his exhaustion. It was then he noticed something unsettling. His greatest conflicts were not happening in the world, but within his own ungoverned mind. Days later, while visiting his aging uncle, Kenji's attention was drawn to a small calligraphy scroll hanging near the entrance. A single character stood alone in black ink. Jin. Stillness. His uncle noticed his gaze and said quietly, "That is Seijaku. Your grandfather kept the same character above his sword." Kenji had never met his grandfather, but he knew the stories. A kendo instructor. A man not remembered for dramatic victories, but for an unsettling composure. Students often said that standing before him felt like standing before deep water, calm but immeasurable. "Did he speak about it?" Kenji asked. "Rarely," his uncle replied. He believed silence was a form of training. Chapter 2. The Warrior Who Reveals Nothing. Centuries earlier, samurai were taught that the moment emotion reaches the face, strategy begins to leak. Anger telegraphs urgency. Fear invites pressure. Even excitement can betray timing. The disciplined warrior therefore practiced mushin, the state of no mind, where thoughts pass like clouds but do not command the body. Mushin does not mean the absence of thought. It means freedom from being ruled by it. When the mind stops grasping, perception sharpens. When it stops reacting, action becomes precise. Kenji began to wonder how much of his life was spent reacting rather than choosing. He decided on a small experiment. For 1 week, he would speak less than necessary. Not coldly, not theatrically, simply less. At work, he resisted the urge to fill pauses. In meetings, he listened fully before responding. When conversations drifted toward complaint or gossip, he allowed them to pass without contribution. At first, the silence felt heavy, almost unnatural, as though he were withholding something expected of him. But something unexpected followed. People began explaining themselves more clearly in his presence. Disagreements softened before reaching him. One afternoon, a tense negotiation shifted when Kenji remained quiet after a provocative remark. The other party, unsettled by the absence of reaction, corrected their tone without being asked. For the first time, he sensed that silence was not emptiness. It was position. Chapter 3. The Discipline of Elimination. The samurai understood that strength is rarely gained by adding more. It is forged through removal of excess movement, excess emotion, excess attachment. This is why many warriors lived with striking simplicity. Not as an aesthetic preference, but as a strategic one. Every distraction fragments attention. Every unnecessary word dilutes intention. Kenji extended his experiment beyond speech. Evenings once consumed by endless scrolling were replaced with quiet walks. He turned off non-essential notifications. Music that once filled every gap was allowed to fade, replaced by the subtle sounds of the city settling into night. At first, the quiet revealed something uncomfortable. How restless he truly was. Without constant stimulation, his mind surged with unfinished worries and unnamed fears. Yet, instead of fleeing this discomfort, he remembered the principle of Mushin. Observe, do not cling. Days became clearer. Decisions required less deliberation. He noticed details previously overlooked. The hesitation in a client's voice, the fatigue behind a friend's laughter, the early signs of his own frustration before it hardened into reaction. Silence was not isolating him from life. It was returning him to it. Chapter 4. Presence cannot be forced. One morning on a crowded train, an argument erupted between two passengers. Voices rose, bodies stiffened, attention narrowed. Kenji felt the familiar pull, the body preparing to react, the mind assembling judgments. Instead, he exhaled slowly and did nothing. Not out of indifference, but out of choice. Within moments, others intervened and the conflict dissolved into embarrassed quiet. Yet, what lingered with Kenji was the realization that presence is not loud. It does not rush forward to assert itself. Like still water, it holds its shape regardless of what disturbs the surface. The Zen monks often compared the undisciplined mind to a shaken jar of muddy water. Only when left undisturbed does the sediment settle, revealing clarity. The samurai carried this understanding into combat, not by calming the battlefield, but by calming themselves within it. Kenji began to see that much of what he once called pressure was amplified by his own internal noise. Chapter 5. The Unreadable Mind. Weeks passed and colleagues started describing him differently: composed, grounded, difficult to provoke. None of this came from adopting a new personality. It came from subtracting what was unnecessary. During a critical presentation, unexpected criticism emerged from a senior executive. In the past, Kenji would have rushed to defend every detail. Instead, he paused. He listened. When he finally spoke, his response was measured and brief. The room grew attentive. Silence, when paired with intention, has weight. Words that emerge from it travel further. Ancient strategists often wrote that the most formidable opponent is not the most aggressive, but the least readable. Without emotional signals to guide them, others must confront their own uncertainty. And uncertainty weakens resolve. Kenji realized that silence was not about controlling others. It was about governing himself so completely that external turbulence could not dictate his inner state. Chapter 6. Returning to still water. Months later, he visited his uncle again. The same calligraphy hung quietly by the entrance. "This house feels unchanged," Kenji observed. His uncle smiled. "Stillness does not mean nothing is happening. It means nothing unnecessary is happening." That evening, as they shared tea, Kenji noticed how little needed to be said. Conversation rose and fell naturally, without strain. In the pauses, there was no awkwardness, only ease. He understood then what his grandfather had protected through silence: energy, perception, dignity. To speak constantly is to scatter oneself. To be silent is to gather. The ancient warriors never sought silence as an escape from the world. They sought it as preparation to meet the world without distortion. Power, they believed, is not proven through volume. It is revealed through restraint. And so, if you wish to understand what the samurai understood, begin not with dramatic change, but with a quiet refusal. The refusal to react to every impulse, to voice every thought, to carry every disturbance. Let the mind settle. Let unnecessary words fall away. In the space that remains, you may discover what they discovered long ago: that beneath the noise most people live inside, there is a stillness that cannot be shaken. Guard it carefully, for within that stillness resides your strength.